At 0900 on September 27, 1942, Lieutenant Colonel William Whaling stood at the edge of Henderson Field on Guadalcanal, watching 4 Marines carry a stretcher toward the aid station. 22 years old, 3rd patrol this week, dead before they found the Japanese position. 3 more stretchers followed. The jungle had swallowed a 7-man patrol that morning. Only 4 came back. The Japanese owned the jungle. 2 months into the Guadalcanal campaign, Marine patrols walked into ambushes they never saw coming. 17 patrols had been wiped out in 3 weeks. The Japanese moved through dense vegetation like ghosts. Marines trained for frontal assaults couldn't see an enemy soldier 10 feet away. Enemy snipers picked off officers. Machine gun nests stayed hidden until entire squads walked past, then opened fire from behind. Whaling knew this pattern would kill them all. The 1st Marine Division had lost 400 men to Japanese ambushes in September alone. Standard infantry tactics did not work in jungle warfare. Marines needed something different, something the Japanese did not expect. 2 days earlier, Whaling had been relieved of his command as executive officer of the 5th Marine Regiment. No combat failure, just personality conflicts with his commanding officer. Most officers in his position would have been shipped back to the United States, but Colonel Gerald Thomas, the Divisional Chief of Staff, knew Whaling's reputation. World War I veteran, Silver Star at San Miguel, expert marksman who competed in the 1924 Olympics. Most importantly, Whaling understood fieldcraft better than any officer in the division. Thomas kept him on Guadalcanal, telling him to think about their jungle problem. Whaling spent 3 days watching patrols leave and counting how many returned. The mathematics were brutal. At this rate, the division would run out of infantrymen before the Japanese ran out of jungle. He needed men who could hunt the hunters, men who understood stalking, men who could read terrain and move silently, men who could kill without being seen. On September 29th, Whaling walked into General Alexander Vandergrift's command tent with a proposal. Organize a scout sniper unit, 100 volunteers, hand-picked for Marines with hunting backgrounds, outdoorsmen, skilled marksmen. Train them in reconnaissance and ambush tactics. Send them into the jungle in small teams to gather intelligence and eliminate Japanese positions before regular patrols advanced. Vandergrift approved immediately. The general had studied Lieutenant Colonel Robert Rogers and his Ranger tactics from the French and Indian War. Small, mobile units operating independently behind enemy lines. The idea fit perfectly with their desperate situation on Guadalcanal. Whaling had 1 week to find his men and start training. If you want to see how Whaling built the deadliest unit in the Pacific, please hit that like button. It helps us share these forgotten stories with more people. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Back to Whaling. He started reading service records that night, looking for specific markers, expert rifle qualification, rural backgrounds, hunting experience, disciplinary records that showed independence, not cowardice, men who thought for themselves, the kind of Marines who'd got in trouble for questioning orders, but always completed the mission. By October 1st, Whaling had identified 43 candidates. He called them to a briefing at 600 on October 2nd, told them the assignment was voluntary, told them the casualty rate for reconnaissance work ran above 50%, told them they would operate in teams of 2 or 3, sometimes for days behind Japanese lines. No backup, no extraction if things went wrong. 41 volunteered immediately, 2 walked away. Whaling looked at the men standing in front of him. Most were 20 years old or younger. Half had been in combat less than 2 months. But they had something the regular infantry did not. They wanted to hunt. Whaling was about to teach them how to become the most feared unit the Japanese would face in the Pacific War. His training would create a template. 2 years later, another Marine officer would use Whaling's methods to build an even more notorious unit. That officer would add one unusual requirement to his recruitment process, a requirement that would shock the entire Marine Corps and create a legend that lasted 80 years. Whaling started training on October 3rd. No manuals existed for what he was building. Everything Whaling knew came from experience, 24 years in the Corps. Jungle, patrol in Nicaragua. French battlefields where he learned that invisible soldiers lived longer than brave ones. The first lesson was silence. Whaling took his volunteers into the jungle west of Henderson Field and told them to walk 100 yards without making noise. Every man failed. Equipment rattled. Boots cracked branches. Canteens clinked against rifles. The jungle amplified every sound. He made them do it again. Removed everything that made noise. Taped down metal parts. Wrapped cloth around canteen hooks. Walked in soft-soled boots instead of standard issue. After 3 days, half the men could move through dense vegetation without alerting. Japanese positions 200 yards away. Marksmanship came next. Most Marines could hit targets at 300 yards on a rifle range, but rifle ranges did not have wind, or rain, or targets that shot back. Whaling taught them to estimate distance by terrain features, judge wind by watching vegetation, and account for how humidity affected bullet trajectory. By October 10th, his best shooters could kill Japanese soldiers at 400 yards with iron sights. The hard part was teaching them to think differently. Regular Marine infantry worked in squads of 12 men, with orders flowing down from officers. Initiative was discouraged. Whaling needed the opposite. Teams of 2 or 3 operating independently for days, making practical decisions without asking permission. Soldiers who could adapt when plans failed. He trained them in map reading and terrain analysis, how to identify good ambush positions, sketch enemy fortifications, and estimate troop strength from campfire smoke and foot traffic, skills that regular infantry never learned. On October 13th, Whaling received orders from General Vandergrift. The division was planning an offensive across the Matanikau River. Vandergrift wanted Whaling to take his partially trained unit and locate Japanese positions before the offensive started. Whaling picked 8 men, split them into 4 teams, and gave each team a sector to scout. Told them to avoid contact if possible, gather intelligence, and return. If they got pinned down, they were on their own. The first team left at 0400 on October 14th. 2 Marines, both from Montana, found a Japanese artillery position with 4 howitzers and 60 soldiers. They sketched the position and returned by noon. The second team found a machine gun nest. The third team mapped patrol routes. The fourth team ran into trouble. They were mapping a trail network when a Japanese patrol of 5 soldiers appeared. 50 yards away, one Japanese soldier stalked, looked directly at the position where the Marines hid, and raised his rifle. The Marine closest to him fired first. Single shot. The Japanese soldier dropped. Whistles echoed through the jungle as enemy troops converged. The 2 Marines ran, reaching friendly positions with 11 enemy soldiers 200 yards behind them. But they brought back critical intelligence. Whaling now had detailed maps of Japanese positions along a 2-mile front, information that regular patrols had failed to gather in 2 months of trying, and that had cost dozens of Marine lives. General Vandergrift looked at the maps on October 15th and immediately changed his offensive plan. Instead of a frontal assault, he would use the scout teams to guide flanking maneuvers around Japanese strongpoints. Whaling's unit had proven the concept worked. Vandergrift told Whaling to expand, find another 60 volunteers, form a full company, and prepare for the largest Marine offensive of the Guadalcanal campaign. The Matanikau offensive began at 600 on October 6, 1942. Whaling's scouts moved out 30 minutes before the main assault. Their mission was simple: infiltrate Japanese lines, locate command posts and artillery positions, eliminate officers and radio operators, and create chaos. Whaling combined his scouts with the 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines, officially calling the unit the Composite Battalion. Everyone else called it the Whaling Group. They crossed the Matanikau River 3 miles upstream and penetrated 2 miles behind Japanese lines undetected. The fighting lasted 4 days. Between October 6th and October 9th, approximately 750 Japanese soldiers died in the encirclement, with Marine casualties lighter than any previous offensive: 43 killed, 112 wounded. General Vandergrift credited the scout snipers with changing the tactical situation. The Japanese had not expected Marines to fight like this. Whaling's methods worked. Though Whaling was wounded and evacuated, his program survived. The 1st Marine Division formally established scout sniper platoons in each infantry regiment. Everything Whaling created from scratch in September became official Marine Corps doctrine by December. His program became the foundation for all Marine scout sniper operations through World War II, Korea, and Vietnam.